Good morning, Metalheads Internet. Welcome to a new episode of the Metal Meltdown. And today we are looking at the latest studio album from Garganjua entitled Toward the Sun. This is the third studio album from this UK metal crew, one that admittedly I've only become very recently familiar with, and also only became familiar with them out of sheer desperation to find something that wasn't fucking Jorn or Rage or some other generic meat and potatoes heavy and speed metal. But regardless of my knowledge and regardless of how and why I came to acquire that knowledge, I am happy to have that knowledge. I am happy to know about Gargantua and this new album Toward the Sun, because it is starting off 2020 on a particularly inspired and exciting note, with its blend of emotionally complex and devastating soundscapes and ideas. I mean, there's a lot happening here in the span of about 50 minutes. We've got a volatile fusion of post-metal, prog metal, doom metal, sludge metal, bringing in elements from Mastodon, Pelican, Isis, Neurosis, a little bit of Inter Arma, a little bit of Pallbearer. Dreary, gloomy, incredibly atmospheric, particularly as the album dives deeper into talking about the planet, into talking about human perseverance and determination. And it all builds on top of each other and swells and grows and progresses into some incredibly exciting and even heartfelt arrangements in this album's absolute best moments. It's a genuinely beautiful and epic piece of modern metal complexity. And what's most fascinating about all this is how natural and real it all feels. It never crosses over into being overcomplicated or pretentious. In fact, on pure surface level, it's actually pretty simplistic, dare I say even accessible. I mean, that's a very delicate balance that's tough to achieve for even the most professional and accomplished of bands in this genre, but Gargantua lays it all out there quite effortlessly and naturally. It's incredibly impressive, to say the least. Right from the get-go as well, as opening track slowly builds up with some spoken word pieces in the very opening before launching into slow, ominous passages of sludgy riffs and throaty, in-your-face vocals, paired soulfully with segments of soft-plucked ambient guitar hearkening to the emotional textures of the most recent work from Pallbearer, stretched out in the song's final moments to some pretty powerful effects. I was actually really impressed that I sat down for roughly 10 minutes and didn't find myself squirming a whole lot. I mean, my problem with a lot of doom and post-metal is that sometimes I'm kind of sitting there going, all right, let's get to the fucking point. And I never had that here. I was really sucked into this world. Even when it did, let's be honest, kind of repeat itself in these little segments, I was still really sucked into it. And the album only continues to swell and grow and explore as it continues from there on out. Take, for instance, on the instrumental track Transcendence, which borrows even more from the world of Pallbearer, delivering this super huge cathartic cinematic hook alongside sprawling doom metal guitars and that same dreary soundscape that has made previous songs so depressing and mournful and heartfelt. And speaking of, then you have a track like Meyer, one of the most devastating cuts on the record, crushing with the weight of a fucking planet, with its belching vocals, its horrifying sludgy walls of guitar, and its surprising burst of black metal in the second half of the song. It's like the really demented love child of Neurosis and Death Heaven. And I'd feel foolish if I didn't mention New Sun as well, which hypnotizes you right away with rolling drums and dreary vocals before immediately launching into one of the album's biggest and best hooks, further complemented by some crushing, ocean-esque, groovy riffs and dissonant, sludgy walls of pure emotional noise. I love how confident Gargantua is. I love how certain they are, how strong they are. The musicianship is great across the board. The sound mix is great across the board, even if guitars and bass do sometimes blur together into a big, noisy, sludgy mess, but that's arguably the nature of this genre, so fuck it, who am I to complain? I suppose if I were to really nitpick, I could probably say something like maybe trim 1 minute off of each of the songs, and it would make everything feel a little bit tighter, but all things considered, the album still wraps up at a pretty sharp 50 minutes, and it's not like I was ever like sitting there going, oh man, I hope this fucking picks up sometime soon. Like, no, I was completely attached to this thing the entire time it was on, and thirsty for more as it was finishing. I'm going to give this a highly, highly, highly enthusiastic 4 out of 5. Dangerously close to that extra 0.5, may I add. Sure, they're definitely playing around with a lot of familiar sounds and ideas, some of which become blatantly more obvious as you continue to spend more time sinking your teeth into this fucking thing. But the way that Gargantua fuses everything together, the way that they arrange everything, it feels unique to them, and it's powerful and super interesting and super engaging and genuinely emotional at times. I mean, I kind of had to sit back and I had my eyes wide open for some of the really cathartic and cinematic passages presented here. Probably not going to be for everyone. It does require a certain amount of patience, to be fair, and for that matter, if you're not a fan of a lot of the bands we've talked about in this video, that we've referenced in this video, then this probably wouldn't sit well with you either. But if you really take the time to sit down with this album and really absorb everything that's happening and you give it your full attention, I promise you, you will find a lot here. You're going to find all kinds of interesting textures and hooks and riffs and ideas, and you're going to leave this thing a fan of Gargantua. I know I've left this thing a fan of Gargantua. I'm going to be spending more time looking at their other albums, and I will be definitely keeping an eye out for their next inevitable project. Highly enthusiastic 4 out of 5. It's definitely way too early to say that this is the best album I've heard so far this year, but I will say that out of everything thrown my way so far in 2020, this is definitely the thing that has kept my attention the most and has intrigued me the most. And I get the feeling a lot of people are going to be feeling the same way once they do, as I say, sit down and pay fucking attention to it. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? Thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately, and you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.